My mother was a heroin addict and was violent, and she had a lot of drama around her. Of course, we kids, my two sisters and I, were brought into that a lot. And I saw her shoot my stepfather. I remember one house we lived in that by the time we left, there were 9 bullets embedded in the walls and floors of that house.
As a 10-year-old boy, he learned that his intuition and his fear could help him read dangerous situations and survive. What were the lessons?
Some of the lessons are that if you don't control the world, things will go crazy and things will be bad. Somewhere there is a child in America learning that when it comes to cruelty, it's better to give than to receive. And there are children learning that violence is the way to communicate. And those are all lessons that I learned as a kid and had to unlearn as an adult.
A man who now, after more than 20 years of studying violence, teaches others what he calls a 10-year-old boy's lessons about fear by starting with intuition.
Now, because I'm talking about intuition, I want to show you something about how it works. I'm going to put up some word puzzles on the screen here. And they're called intuitive word puzzles because people often get them without even knowing why they got them. Here's the first one. If somebody gets it, just call it out. This one is rate increase. It is rate increase. Here's another one. Tennis anyone is correct. Tennis anyone.
These puzzles are designed to show that our brains work intuitively, even though we're not always aware of it. Becker thinks practice can help us develop a sensitivity that we're often taught to ignore.
The whole premise of my work is to get people to figure out how they communicate with themselves, to know the difference between the worry, the anxiety, and the hesitation, and the real fear. The real fear is one of the signals from intuition that you always must listen to. That's one you don't debate with. You just act on it.
How do you know this?
Because, Cynthia, for 20 years, I've been asking people who were victimized in some criminal way, who did experience violence. I asked them, could you have seen this coming? And invariably people say to me, no, it came out of nowhere. And then if I'm quiet, if I take a breath, here comes all this information.
There's a story that happens to me all the time. A couple will make an appointment with me to talk about some death threat they're receiving over the phone, over their answering machine. And they know it's somebody they know because the caller knows their daughter's name. And they'll go through this process of working out who the suspects might be. And invariably the woman will say, you know, there is one more person it could be. But I'm uncomfortable even bringing it up because I really don't have a good reason. And I could send my bill and send them home because that is who it will be. They come to me to solve the mystery. But all I do is refuse to call it a mystery.
Maybe what people are most fearful of is sort of random, senseless violence.
I always get a kick out of that. On the news they say a senseless act, a random and senseless act. And as long as we call them senseless, we won't make sense out of them. 20% of the homicides in America are from people we don't know. 80% are from people we do know. So why are we focusing so much on that 20% and don't look at family violence, violence against children, homicides from coworkers, things that actually are easily preventable?
Preventing violence is the focus of Gavin Becker's company, and for the first time, Becker allowed outsiders into his secret California headquarters.
You did a general background investigation?
Yes.
Each week, his staff monitors about 300 cases like this one. 15 of them rated R3, potentially deadly.
He whacked a shotgun into the phone?
Yes.
Without any words?
Without any words.
That's called symbolic violence. The man who tears his wife's wedding dress up, or mars the photo, or he breaks things that matter to her.
These files contain hundreds of thousands of threatening letters sent to Becker's clients. With the details of these cases and thousands of others, he has designed a computer program, currently being used by law enforcement in Los Angeles, to evaluate which threats are most likely to escalate into deadly violence, a form of artificial intuition he calls mosaic.
So if you were the battered woman and I was the detective, I'd ask you a series of questions like, did your husband witness violence as a child? And if you knew, you'd answer it. Does he decide what you wear, where you go, the keys to the car?
Detective Ron Marquez with the LA Sheriff's Department has been using Mosaic for 8 months, and he says it works.
It gives the victim a wake-up call. It produces a written report that they review, and when they see that, it seems to eliminate, in their mind, the problem that they're facing.
What we're doing now is taking the strategies that are used to protect our highest government officials and bringing them to regular people. And of course, regular citizens need them more, because public officials are attacked very rarely. Women are killed every 2 hours by a husband or boyfriend.
A statistic Becker says can be changed by learning to listen to our survival signal, using the gift of fear. Consider the man and the shark.
I interviewed a guy who was attacked by a shark. And he is moving through the water faster than he's ever moved, he tells me. And suddenly he looks down and he sees that's because he's being pulled by a great white shark through the water. And without any hesitation, he immediately starts to caress the shark's head, find the eyes, and put his thumbs into the only soft tissue he finds. And the shark lets go of him. He did something on the basis of fear that I could never convince you to do on the basis of worry. And real fear, like what I just described, that is a survival signal. That's a gift.